Hello, good evening. Welcome to PM Express. Tonight, it's a conversation that has been happening since we're tracking back all the way to 2014 when this man started his series of lectures. And those lectures became pretty controversial. Now, we are seeing the sort of a ripple effect way into his current state of the country when he is now a vice president. Remember the first lecture he gave? And that first lecture was in 2014, way back at the Central University. And it was on the theme, restoring the value of the city. This is where that journey started. When we end, you understand why it's become such a controversial issue currently. Then there's some important highlights from that particular lecture that Dr. Bawumia, who is currently the vice president, put out in that particular lecture he gave, Restoring the Value of the City. He talks about when the fundamentals are weak, the exchange rates will expose you. That is something that is being used today in an internal elections and a campaign for the flag bearership of the NDC, the main opposition party. In fact, mainly by the former president, John Dramani Mahama. He said this. He also predicted in this particular lecture, and this is a key one, that the Mahama-led government will eventually be forced to go for a bailout. I remember covering this particular lecture, and when he made the prediction, there was a barrage of criticism and attack from then the governing National Democratic Congress and the government then, saying that prediction can never happen, and that Bawumia is talking about stuff that he doesn't know about. Fast forward a year on, what happened? The government indeed went to the IMF for then what was termed policy credibility. Bawumia came back and told us that in essence, he has been vindicated. Let's fast forward to, it didn't stop there, by the way. We moved to another year where 2015, the series of lectures did not stop. In 2015, Dr. Bawumia came back harder at the NDC, the governing party. And the lecture again was titled this time, the Bawumia IMF bailout, asking essentially, will the anchor hold? He ended by concluding essentially that the anchor would not hold, but then he felt it has been vindicated. Why? Because obviously the government went to the IMF for policy credibility. He insisted it was simply a bailout because we were giving almost $1 billion. That, he says, was a bailout, something he had predicted a year before at a lecture. Now, we go on. He talks about the fact that as far as the government is concerned and its desire to borrow, which was then termed smart borrowing, government has moved from, and this, Bawumia started using a lot of cheeky phrases. They moved from Yentiobia to Yebiti IMF inquire. By that time, of course, we were in the grips of the IMF. Now, it didn't end there, by the way. This was 2015. Then in 2016, I guess, it intensified. Dr. Bawumia, this was election year, and if you recall, he did another lecture. And in that particular lecture, he started talking about the fundamentals of the economy. In that lecture, Dr. Bawumia really hammered on what he believes to be the state of the economy, which was in total deterioration. I want you to listen to John Dramani Mahama, currently, who is campaigning. Well, he lost the election in 2016. He's currently campaigning to return for a second term if first the NDC allows him, and second if he gets the nod of the population in the general elections. He's been referring to these series of lectures. Now, Dr. Bawumia is a vice president, is a chair of the economic management team, and these words that he's laid out since 2014 are being used against him. Listen to John Dramani Mahama.
It is easier to give political lectures on the economy than to manage the economy. Any economics lecturer can give lectures on the economy, but not every lecturer can manage the economy.
Well, it's
Former President John Dramani Mahama, and this is him in campaign mode. Dr. Bawumia hasn't relented. He had a reaction.
I hear the incompetent one says he wants to come back. he wants to come and do more damage. As if he didn't do enough damage. Well, we are waiting for him. We are waiting for him. We are waiting for him. Oh my God.
Well, we're waiting for him. Guess what? It didn't stop. Tit for tat. Dr. Bawumia said that. Minutes, in fact, a day later, we had John Dramani Mahama saying this.
I told all their communicators, anytime you mention Mahama or NDC, say incompetent. I say here Bawumia and say incompetent Mahama administration, incompetent. You've never held any responsibility anywhere near presidency before. You don't know what it is like to be president.
This was just before the elections, by the way. Listen to Dr. Bawumia again.
Former President Mahama can now accept criticism from me, since by the grace of God I have now occupied the office of Vice President of the Republic.
So the back and forth tit for tat has been going on. This week we've seen even worse. A statement from the campaign of John Dramani Mahama attacking him for bringing the good name of his office into disrepute. That's a conversation we are going to have. Why? What is happening here? But at the heart of that is the state of Ghana. Because remember that John Dramani Mahama had said that he was a fantastic lecturer, but he see a fantastic administrator of a state called Ghana. We'll be delving into that and what is fueling this rivalry. Meanwhile, remember that there is a man whose image and picture is going to be on the ballot in 2020. He's called Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. He's the president of the land. However, this feud appears to be brewing rather between the vice president and John Dramani Mahama, who is seeking an attempt to come back into power. Why that? In our history, it doesn't appear to have happened before, where a vice president seemed to be the target of a main opposition political party. But we will start today's conversation with a conversation that has happened this week. We've seen a lot of conversation, a lot of happening, a lot of chatter around the Vigilante issue, and the MPP isn't happy with pronouncements made by the NCCE, which has branded the government and the governing party as paying lip service to dismantling the vigilante groups that they have following the attack in the Ashanti region. Quick comments on that, and then we'll delve into this feud, brewing feud ahead of the 2020 elections between the vice president and the opposition party. Stay with us. My guest, Bawumia Samoa, is MP for Adenta. By the way, he is my member of parliament. It's good that I'm seeing him in the studio. I have a lot of issues to discuss with him after the show, by the way. And recently, when the MPP restructured its communications, he was put at the tip of that. And so we have him in the studio. We are grateful that you joined us.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bawumia Samoa.
Don't put me on the spot on Adenta issues.
After. Also joining us in the studio is a man who was a campaign coordinator for John Dramani Mahama in the 2016 elections. He's currently coordinating the party's internal elections. He is the current national organizer of the NDC. Kofi Adams is my guest also. Kofi, thank you very much.
Thank you, Evans.
And he can't wait to be done with the elections. Somebody will replace him, then he can really remove the gloves and go into the fight. Of course, he's a John Mahama man in total. Let me start with you, Bawumia Samoa, with this latest incident of with the Delta forces in Kumasi. Just brief comments on that before we move on to the substantive issue. This week, the NCCU called your party out, your government. In fact, the NCCE chairperson says that your party, your government, you're paying lip service to dismantling vigilante groups in your camp. following the attack on a meeting, organized by a leading stalwart of your party. What happened? What's happening there?
In their duty as the NCCE, they have a right to deliver a perspective. But I think it's important that they are fair to everybody. Vigilante groups, per the position of the party and indeed the president, in the context of violence, has been decried. Nobody wants it, and it's been thoroughly condemned. So, to create the impression that it is peculiar to the MPP and the MPP government in the way the statement was put.
But condemnation is lip service.
That's the point unfair. No, it's not lip service.
Condemnation. When you still maintain the groups in the party.
No, there are issues. Everybody has a right to associate. And one can have any fanciful name for any group of people. What we are saying is that you can choose to associate, you can call yourself any name, and indeed, you can make yourself very useful to the party. The party has a rally, you are there to support, crowd control, management. These things happen for all the parties across. And indeed, they used to happen in Nkrumah's time, when action troopers and others were in operation. But individuals within those groups ought not to take the law into their own hands. And I have stated this before, and that is the position of the government, that's the position of the president, that's the position of the party.
Yeah, you have a position.
Individuals, yes.
But it hasn't stopped these
because it is
happening.
not for us to arrest people who are violent.
But these are your
for
people.
The institutions, yes, but the institutions have to catch them. We are saying that if somebody belongs to an association, it's lawful for the association to exist.
But this is not a lawful association, is it?
Is it? Why
An
not?
association that has been formed with people whose sole purpose is to appear, from what we've seen, is to cause mayhem.
Evans, you can conclude that. Anytime there's an incident of mayhem, there are identifiable people. Incidents have happened before, even before this government, where the police have been called upon, may, in their own ways, have determined whether or not to deal with it or not. We've been here, people have burned, taking tender documents out of a minister's office and burned them within the yard. We've been here when groups, in quotes, vigilante groups have burned billboards and stopped a president from entering a region. We are aware of that. Northern region, the then President Mills couldn't enter the northern region. It's not about equalization. It's not about politicization of the issues. It's about strengthening institutions. If rule of law is going to work, it is time those who are in charge of enforcing the rules do that, exactly that. Yeah. Sit up and enforce the rules.
Unfortunately, for a party in power, the call is simple. Disband the Delta Force. Disband the Invisible Force. Why can't you just simply disband them?
I or the party didn't form. The party didn't form Delta Force.
Who did?
A group of lads.
But they work for the party.
Yes, but that's what I'm saying. When they work for the party and they help us at our rallies and our campaigns and all that, is it wrong? Do you hear anything wrong with that?
No, but
we need that support. You go to a rally and there are hundreds of thousands of people. They want to crowd the favorite people. They want to crowd the president. They want to crowd the vice president. They want to crowd the candidate. They want to crowd people who are coming in there. They offer support, security support, barrier support, and it's useful. They don't beat anybody in those situations, do they?
They eventually do. Eventually do.
No.
Invincible forces have done.
If after a rally, a person saying he's a member of the Invincible Force goes to a public office and beats somebody up there, that is not authorized by the party. That is not a reflection of what the rest of Invincible Forces are and ought to be doing. That is a criminal action that ought to be punished at the source, which means that individual must be isolated and punished.
By the way, a party in power, what do you need these groups to help you with barricades and things like that? You have the police.
No.
You appoint the IGP.
It's organic.
That's your job.
It's organic. We all grow. If you are in opposition and you have a network of support groups, you don't come into power and say that now that I have the state, I'm going to use incumbency beyond a certain point, and therefore all my support groups go away. If you have a research group, you don't abandon the research group and rely on government research only. You maintain your research group. We are saying that there is freedom of association. Let's get this thing very clear once and for all. There is freedom of association. Tomorrow, if you say, I have disbanded Delta Force, and they come up and they say they are called Volta force, or what do you call it? Force majeure, whatever name. Do you then chase them disbanding as they create new names or not? You don't. We must isolate criminal conduct, raw criminal conduct, from the right to associate and pursue lawful interests. If you associate, you supported the party, and you make a case that once having worked with the party in opposition, we are in power, we also need access to opportunities for our members, and you conduct yourselves lawfully and advocate for that, everybody is after opportunities. It is lawful, it is right. You can also make advances to the party through all the structures the party has. We have an organizership. You can even make advances to the president directly. There are discrete groups who make advances. The Association of Freight Forwarders, Association of Traders, they all do things and insist on advocating their rights. You can also be a recognized group who insist on your rights, who are protecting the interests of its membership. But the objects of that group must be lawful.
Okay.
Once you have associated, which is a right in the first place, even if your objects are not clearly stated, none of you should go beyond the bounds of acceptable legal behavior. If you go beyond those bounds, then I think that it is fair, it is only fair that the individuals who bring the name of the larger group into disrepute are dealt with according to law.
Just on the back of that today, 2 of your members, in fact, their polling station executives, have been remanded into police custody on the back of what happened on Sunday. This is something that you endorse clearly.
It is the difference.
That's what you endorse.
Let me learn. It is the difference. We act. Clearly, rule of law. We act.
Didn't act. The police did.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. We haven't stopped the police from acting.
Yeah.
We haven't stopped the police from acting. There's been an era where nothing happens. Chiripone, nothing happened. Agboboloshi, nothing happened. In Chiripone, there were gunshots. There were open people holding guns, firing at people. Nothing happened. Okay. So we've been in this country where we've seen that these things happen and nothing happens to people because there's no political will behind it. We act because we believe in the rule of law.
Thankfully, Ms. Adams, these are lip service. This is lip service because that's what the NCC says.
Evans, thank you for the opportunity and good evening to your viewers. Clearly, it's more than lip service. Indeed, these are groups that right from the very top, the presidency, they are encouraging them to do what they are doing. The president, his vice president, the party leadership, and all are aware of the operations of these groups and what they do. They have given their tacit endorsement. And I will indicate clearly why I'm saying so. You see, the president himself, in the period when they formed all these groups, what did he come out to say as part of his rally? He says, Etiwa, bibi kakra. What did those boys do at Etiwa? They beat up people, maimed women and others. Me, that day, I was seated I was the only person in my car and then my driver. They threw stones at my vehicle. I had nobody in the car to say that, or maybe you had some well-built persons. In Etiwa, they did so. It didn't end there. They used them against their own party persons. Their immediate past general secretary, Kwabena Jaya Japan, and Paul Afoko, at a point even said that he has to go to meetings with weapons because of the way they were using. I was at the NPP headquarters once when there was a scuffle and I saw weapons. Yeah.
This is covering the party. I've been covering the party for a long time, so I know what he's saying.
So at the party, they did all this. Then you won power. At the seat of government, Flagstaff House, a 7th police officer was chased by these vigilante groups. The evidence was available. The government people pretended they didn't see anything. It never happened. In this world, that we have just been discussing the murder of the Saudi journalist, and they are using the CCTV footages to trace and deal with the matter. The MPP told us that it didn't happen when the police officer was being beaten by these vigilante groups. Then in Kumasi, you appoint your own officers. He was talking about Chiripone, where it was a by-election situation happening. It was an election that was this one your own. You appoint,
but in Chiripone, they have your people were wielding guns.
I'm coming.
Because of a by-election,
I'm coming. We didn't. you couldn't identify them as our people or somebody else's people anyway. Then in Kumasi, you appoint a security liaison officer. Then these same groups team up and say, we don't want that person. Beat up, chase up persons. And you kowtow to their pressure and remove that person. Then you go and assure Otumfo.
Jay is still there.
On the 1st of April, that's why people refer to that assurance as an April Fool assurance. He went to Kumasi on the 1st of April to assure no less a chief, but Otumfo, that what happened, he will put his foot down, it will not happen.
Yeah, but that's what happened.
Please, then on the 5th, no, it hadn't happened then. The first was chasing his liaison officer from the RCC and blood all over. That was what had happened. Then he went to Kumasi on the 1st of April and met Otumfo and the elders and said this would never happen again. Then on the 5th, a judge was chased out from the courtroom. I'm happy that Honorable Bawumia Samoa is here. He's a lawyer in addition to being a lawmaker. So he understands when judges get chased by their vigilante group, you should understand the effect, the impact. And we sit here and just say, oh, there are groups who are free association. What that means is that the leadership is so irresponsible, it's not able to control its people. The leadership should be able to take charge and not allow such a thing that if you will associate, you will not associate in our party's name for such disorderly act.
But Ms. Adams, the evidence show today, for example, 2 people, polling station executives of the MPP, have been run into prison custody. The evidence show again that in the case of the people who broke out, a few of the guys from the cells, they were again convicted and sanctioned by the courts. That is evidence. Now the argument is that in your time, when you also had the Azoka boys, nobody was convicted or jailed.
If you allow me to,
it's a question.
Azoka boys, did Azoka boys ever chased anybody, beat anybody, maimed anybody?
Go to Brown
please. Why Azoka boys are in Brown Halfway?
Talensi.
When you were speaking, I sat here as if I didn't really exist too. I sat here as if I didn't exist.
I won't give you an excuse to chicken out. Go on. Go on. You go on.
I was speaking, and you were telling me about something has happened. The president went and assured Otumfo that it wasn't going to happen. Then on the 5th of April, the judge gets chased out of court. That you cannot remand our people, free them, or we deal with you. What happened? They said, oh, each person should pay 1,000 cedi or 1,800 thereabout for threatening and chasing a judge. You remember these were people who were complaining that someone sat at a studio and spoke, and they were sentenced to a number of days imprisonment and asked to pay about 10,000 fine. And when later they were granted some pardon after serving almost
moved by the
30 days. The noise they made in this country. Now a judge is chased. They acted. They almost killed her if she had not run into her chambers. They would have killed her.
We don't know.
Hyperbole.
Of course.
You're going to allow such hyperbole.
You're
going to allow such hyperbole.
What was the intent? What was the intent?
We don't know that.
You're going to allow that.
This is just a preliminary comment. So let's wrap up. Let's wrap up.
Let's wrap up on these things matter to the country.
I'll wrap up, please.
Very briefly in 1 minute.
Then it didn't end there. Then they moved to Tamale and started chasing people in institutions, health insurance, this, that. And it ended at the hospital, where they have to chase the chief executive of Tamale Teaching Hospital. Yeah, but somewhere people say all these.
Unfortunately, we need to move on.
Let us contextualize these matters.
This one that you are talking about, that they are acting. Why are they acting? They are acting because now they are chewing them. first they thought it was others.
Oh, please.
They didn't have blood.
So let us move
now
on.
it is turning onto them.
I think the clarion call from the NCCE and others is that both parties should disband. Is that commitment?
We don't have anything to disband.
Good.
It is the governing party that have vigilantes to disband. So don't say both parties.
You do.
We don't have.
Azoka Boys
are not a vigilante group.
He also says yes, they are not a vigilante
Why?
group.
And they are going about naming people. They are going about naming people.
It is convenient for the NDC to jump and catalog instances. The historicity of it, you know, and it's very clear that if we want to catalog, it's as tall as everything on each side. The question is, going forward in this democracy that we all love, seek to nurture, that we cherish so much, how do we control the phenomenon of free association, aspirations that appear to, for some people, require force? It is not useful to any group. It is not useful to a governing party because it can become a source of blackmail. Once there's an assumption, a feeling that one can use force to exact something, then any group can come together and try and exact something from the government with force. It is not to be encouraged under any circumstances. That is not to say, as Kofi is gleefully trying to list, that it hasn't happened there. It is to say that law enforcement must be strong and courageous on that front. It is to say that we must admit that we have a democracy that has free association and that progressively these groups ought to be able to clean up their act. At a certain level, you may form an NGO because you are educated, you are a lawyer, you are otherwise, you have a master's degree, you speak good English, so your NGO is tidy. And so you can say things about the government, against the government, and get away with it. At their level, they may not be so erudite. They may not have the arsenal, the pen power, and the intellect power, but they also have needs.
Need to interrupt you there and ask that pointed question. Is the party ready to disband these groups as the callers come?
If the party has set out to put together groups, then the party has a responsibility to disband them.
Okay.
But I'm saying that
we'll take a short break. We'll return. We'll move to the Bawumia.
When a party puts something together, the party can be asked to disband it.
Live on PM Express. Let's talk about that controversial subject that has become pretty tonic for both parties, and it is the feud still simmering between John Dramani Mahama, former president, and our sitting vice president, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. Let me start with you, Kofi Adams, because you are a John Mahama man. This week, I have counted not less than 5 emails we have received from the John Mahama campaign. And of course, there are 2 statements that we've seen also. And in these sounds, and you know he's campaigning, so he has communications people who send us these voices. He's responding to the Vice President, Dr. Bawumia. Why?
Evans, first and foremost, the former president is not responding to Vice President Bawumia. He truly will have no time for that, and it's not a feud between the former president and Vice President Mahmoud Bawumia. I don't think that he will get that kind of attention. The level of experience and the wisdom that encapsulate the person John Dramani Mahama, he will not spend his time to bring himself that low.
But he
to
has
the level, please.
Talking
to the level,
a lot about
No. He is talking about what it is that Dr. Bawumia have said, for which today he's been exposed for it.
You think he's been exposed? What for?
Oh. We'll be listening all those things.
Let's go in there.
You know, Dr. Bawumia was one person who never believed and accepted reports from institutions. All of a sudden today, he thinks that we should accept what these institutions are putting out. You remember his Malata market analysis of the economy. He said everything the statistical service was bringing out for him was false. And that was where he calculated inflation to the point that he even added items that were not part of the inflation basket, adding cement and all those things. Dr. Bawumia did all this to this country and said what the statistical service was putting out doesn't reflect at the Malata market. Today, Yabwabia someone sees here, he's MP for Adenta. There's a market in Adenta. He's been quoting figures all over that, oh, the finance minister said this on the floor of the house. This one said this at this place. The question is it reflecting at the market? No. The people there are complaining that life is very difficult. Institutions are collapsing. The fuel prices they made noise about has gone so high. Here was a vice president. And you see, experience and wisdom is very critical in leadership. You can be very well educated, and I would never question Dr. Bawumia's level of education. You can be very well educated, but you need experience and wisdom to be able to put all these education that you had into proper leadership that will bring results. And that is what President Mahama did. And that is what has given us what it is that we have today that we can celebrate even as a country. If there is anything this country can celebrate for all the way up till this point and look at and smile, then it is what President Mahama has done. Look around you, Evans, in this country. If there is anything that Ghana today can be celebrated for, it is what President John Dramani Mahama has done. Yeah. Nigerians come in, others are flying in, and they see our infrastructure and they say, wow. They celebrate it. It is thinking. It is wisdom. It is experience that has given us that. You see, Dr. Bawumia, who claimed that who says he's an economist, and who also posited, of course. Let me say so.
What's your word, though?
He says so. Claim. He says so.
Says.
Yes.
He is an economist.
This is a professor of economics.
I'll tell you why. I've said I'm not going to doubt
a man who ran the economy of Zimbabwe on behalf of the African Development Bank.
I'm saying that I have said I'm not going to question
an international consultant of renowned credentials.
He's rephrased.
Written a couple of books.
Allow him.
I'll do it.
Allow him to make it.
What he's doing, I'll do it.
He's allowed you to make a point.
I'm saying I'll do it to him. He should just take note. I'm saying, I have said earlier that I will not question Dr. Bawumia's academic qualification. When I say he claims, but I'm coming to tell you why. Here is one who says he's an economist.
He's still on that. He is an economist.
He's making a point. Let him make his point, substantive point. Yes.
3 months after being in government, he organized a big press conference and enumerated about 101 achievements and said, every day one achievement, every day one achievement after 100 days. Then he announced, because the cedi had done some good work against the dollar in those first few months. What did he say? He says they have arrested the dollar and they have locked the dollar up. And he has done what? Handed the key over to who? To who?
The IGP.
To the IGP. Because the dollar, the cedi was doing well against the dollar in those first 3 months. He didn't give the credit of the cedi doing well against the dollar in those first 3 months to the NDC. It was his job as the chairman of the economic management team that 3 months into office, he has done so well. Yeah. So they should celebrate him. Evans, if he is truly the economist he claims he is, 15 months on, the dollar leaves your cedi. And the cedi starts giving you a dance that you cannot even see. Religious leaders now say we must start praying and all that. Then this same person, who 3 months after being in office says that the achievement, it is he, one day, one achievement. He has logged the dollar, handed over the key to the IGP. Now comes to tell you that what is happening now, you should send the blame to the previous administration. Do you take him serious?
Let me bring in.
Will you take him serious?
He makes a point that people will point to the facts of Bawumia's history and the lectures that he gave when we had the former president that talks about the lectures. And now that he's in power, he's in government, the people are seeing a different side of Bawumia. I want to quote to you something that Bawumia said in one of the lectures that he gave. And this was the one in 2015 in which it was titled, "The IMF Bailout Will the Anchor Hold?" He said, for example, that when the government was cautioned about the scale of borrowing, the government responded that they will borrow more, end of quote. Now, in 2018, and this is just July, when the Bank of Ghana released its preliminary reports on our debt stock, Ghana's total debt stock has reached 154 billion, May ending. According to the provisional data from the Bank of Ghana, it says that the provisional data shows us that your government had borrowed 9 billion cedis in 3 months. Yes. That is a man who, in 2015, was telling the NDC that they were borrowing too much, and that they were not listening to anybody, and you could borrow 9 billion in 3 months.
Yes, thank you very much. Dr. Bawumia is a very witty politician, extremely witty politician, and he's been able to capture the imagination of the NDC, and that is why, indeed, you have concluded that there's a feud. And the feud is peculiarly between the entire NDC, the one seeking to lead the NDC into the future, and Bawumia, who is not the man whose face is even on the cards. That is how witty
the one whose face you want to put.
This is the man. This is the man who has, through these series of lectures, changed the political profile of the country.
Really?
Yes. Those lectures
were substantive lectures.
They were substantive lectures. They contained death.
Yeah.
They gave a
so
difference.
Why is he not following his own prescriptions from the lectures?
He's following it.
By borrowing
9 billion in 3 months?
Because I'm going to explain why.
Okay.
He has to borrow.
Because those monies have been used to reprofile the gargantuan debt that we came to meet. And reprofiling is legitimate. If we hadn't reprofiled the 122 billion plus 7 billion later found, we would have been in dire straits by now. We couldn't have, we would have defaulted. We inherited a debt profile of 73% to GDP. That is beyond HIPIC. We were not called HIPIC again because we've been in and out. We were not called HIPIC again because we were in and out. And we've been classified, lower middle income.
I'll come to this. Can you make notes for me?
Without that reprofiling, that was adroitly managed by Dr. Bawumia. Somebody who has managed an economy in Zimbabwe where hyperinflation was daily bread, literally. We would have been in dire straits by now. We would have defaulted on our debt profile. So part of that debt was to reprofile. Another part of that debt, bonds, were to retire half of the energy overhang, energy debt overhang that was left to us in excess of $4 billion. And Bawumia always said and insisted that the debt crisis in the energy sector was due to financial mismanagement and not capacity. There are two fundamental things he said that have come true. He said they would go to the IMF, and they did. After dancing around Senchi and going up and down, they shamefacedly went to the IMF, an economy that was given to them in a healthy state. He then said that the problem in the energy sector, where we're experiencing Dumso, which literally brought this country's artisanal sector onto its knees, Asa said we're losing 2 billion per annum due to Dumso. He said it was not capacity. Indeed, we come in, and the fact that it was not capacity has been proved by the fact that we've been able to move away from 11 power purchase agreements capacity, and we are still doing well. And we've restructured another few more, and we are still doing well because we borrowed to offset the debts there and to make the sector liquid in order to fund energy provision.
So NDC is responsible for your huge borrowing.
So where's the huge borrowing? If you use borrowing to good effect, it returns itself. If you use borrowing to good effect,
so you've used
you
borrowing
get
to
the
good
benefit.
Effect, and yes, we've seen cost of living go up. prices of crude have gone. And this is how you measure it from the very basic market woman's point of view.
Exactly.
You agree? And even the president recently said that times are tough.
Yes, the president appreciates that because the reforms that are going on are fundamental. These are fundamental reforms. And please, at this point, the one institution that the NDC believes in is the IMF. Let us refer to what the IMF says about now and then, if you don't mind. If you don't mind. This is very recent. The review. Paragraph 4. This is not from the MPP. April 15, the NDC went to IMF. And in October 2016, after a year and a half of IMF, when they were giving clear targets, this is what the IMF said about them. Economic outlook remains difficult and fiscal challenges are mounting. The growth outlook for 2016 and 2017, while the NDC was in power, it wasn't yet 2017, has weakened. Revenues are underperforming, and the deteriorated financial situation of some SOEs in the energy sector is posing fiscal risks, significant risks. The authorities will cut spending to offset revenue shortfalls. They have to stop spending because of debt, and have taken steps to address the financial situation of SOEs, including new levies on petroleum products. Petrol prices were going up. We've taken 40% of the taxes they put on there, the levies, down to 26%. Domestic revenues are underperforming, reflecting lower than projected oil prices, weak economic activity with lower business profits and personal incomes. People's incomes were dwindling, as well as lower than expected revenue impact from several measures implemented so far. Even what the IMF took them to school to do, they couldn't do after 1.5 years of going to the IMF. Then, listen to what the IMF says when we came and took charge. The MPP government managed to bring the program back on track. That's the IMF program that they went to put our new head in, the news, which stopped employment and every other thing. Then, after 1 year of managing the economy, the same IMF had this to say in April 2018. And I'm quoting. Implementation of the ECF supported program has significantly improved in 2017. When just October 2016, they said it was dire, it was bleak, and 2017 was going to be difficult. After just 1 year, they are telling us that implementation of the ECF supported program, that's the IMF program, has significantly improved in 2017. Growth has rebounded. Growth has jumped up from its sickbed. The fiscal deficit has declined, leading to a primary surplus for the first time in 15 years. The external position has strengthened, generating a buildup of external buffers, and key steps have been taken to address fragilities in the financial sector. This is what we are seeing now. Reforms should continue to entrench these hard-won gains. This is the IMF endorsing the program that they failed at. The program they took us into.
Is this a reason why Dr. Bawumia had a threat to John Mahama?
Evans, let me tell you clearly.
The incompetence is incredible.
Please, you see, the issue is a wisdom issue, which they are lacking. Wisdom. The leadership.
The IMF lacks wisdom.
The leadership. I'm talking about the leadership.
So they didn't know what they were saying.
Can I allow him to make his point?
The very IMF that is referring to, what was their global predictions? Haven't they reviewed it just this week?
Which global?
Haven't they reviewed it downwards?
What has that got to do with?
What has that got to do with the ECF program that you went here, you couldn't perform?
Can I allow him to make his point?
We should be disciplined. We should be behaving like Dr. Bawumia here. Otherwise, you would have brought Dr. Bawumia here to come and do the program.
Can I allow him
so
to
there
make
should
his
be some discipline
Vice
when he's
President,
speaking.
Because
Because he's indisciplined.
Can I allow him to make his point?
Because he's being indisciplined. That's
Adam,
why I'm referring you to the way he's behaving.
Yeah.
When he's talking, I sit here as if I don't exist.
Mr. Adams, please make your point.
Even when he's telling out falsehood.
Address the falsehood. Please allow him to make.
I'm going to
make his point.
You see, when we talk about energy generation, and he says that it is economic issue and not about capacity, go shut down America and shut down car power that we brought and see whether we will not go back to the doomsday situation.
We have shut 11 down.
He is talking about agreements that are even yet to be implemented, for which you are stopping. It is not what is happening today to take you out of the doomsday situation. So don't sit here and peddle falsehood. The agreements they are reviewing are agreements that have been signed and all those productions are yet to be implemented.
So
because when they come on board,
so why did you say
Ghana will be exporting energy, and some of these sources were going to be even cheaper. It was going to make sure that some more expensive ones that we were doing will surely bring the kilowatt per hour further down. So you don't sit here and spread falsehood. When you are an honorable member of parliament, and you are director of communication,
I will not accept that. The IMF tells you that your energy sector is underperforming, and you question my credentials. You question my credentials as a member of parliament. On what basis is he talking about falsehood?
We don't just come and
question my credentials. Please, I will not accept that.
Yes.
I will not accept that. Let him withdraw that. I will not accept that.
We don't just come and sit
there is nothing I have said here that is not factual, that should enable him to speak about me in those terms. I am a member of parliament. I have been voted for by the people of Adenta. Please respect my status.
And churn out.
Respect my status.
But he was quoting from
I quoted from the IMF.
I quoted from the IMF. If you quoted the thing is wrong.
State one falsehood. So the IMF is wrong. The IMF is wrong. The IMF is wrong.
Let me do the doc which I invited you here.
Listen,
he was quoting from a document.
Listen, and IMF said in that document that he quoted that the management of the energy sector was a financial issue and not about capacity.
No, he was speaking to
IMF
the IMF
so.
That's what they said.
They said so.
That's what they said.
They said so where? In all that you read.
Fundamentally,
you don't even
it says
fundamentally,
revenues are underperforming. Let's listen to this. And the deteriorated financial situation of some SOEs in the energy sector is putting fiscal risk.
Fundamentally, you disagree with the
fiscal
IMF
risk
position.
is taxation. If you don't understand,
listen.
You disagree with the IMF
about revenues. Yes. Let me talk about revenues. Those revenues.
First, do you disagree with the IMF? You disagree with the IMF?
Will you let?
Please allow me to.
I am intelligent enough to do an analysis.
Yeah.
I don't come here to come and read what has been produced.
Don't get distracted. Let's stay with
you, not me. I come here to do intelligent analysis, not to come and read out.
With the unintelligent ones who keep
so
quoting
you can come and sit here and read. If Evans wanted us to come and read, he would have taken this document and we'll sit here and be reading to his viewers.
You disagree with the position expressed by the IMF.
That what he is telling now is not the position of the IMF. The IMF didn't say that the situation that we faced was not a capacity situation. That's what I'm saying. You shut down Ameri today, shut down Car Power today, and see whether we'll not go back to do so. And so if you sit here and just say, oh, it's a financial situation, ask for revenues underperformance. Why? Today, are revenues performing up to the target that have been set? Haven't we mixed revenue targets? Haven't we mixed the revenue targets?
I think they admit that even in the budget.
And I'm saying that
clearly, the facts show that you've made revenue targets.
So clearly, the revenue targets continue to be a challenge. But you know what is happening?
Tell me.
The investment, some of the investments that we did, for example, like the Atuabo gas, which is about $1 billion investment, means that today.
Noted contrast, left, right, center.
Mr. Babe, I'll come back to you to make your substantive point.
You come and sit here just.
You don't get distracted. So kindly make your final point. Yes.
Don't
get distracted. Just make your
when they sit here in simple website, they claim we are spending 800,000 to build the website.
I want to quickly return to something that is
people inflate.
Quickly return to something that I know is important.
Let me finish this point.
Very quickly.
I'm saying that they are turbo gas. The project they poo-pooed, that project alone has made sure that Ghana is no longer spending so much to import gas, to generate power, to feed industry that it would have been spending.
Very quickly,
that alone is giving us huge savings.
There is a thought out there expressed this week that the continued reference to Dr. Bawumia in John Dramani Mahama's campaign speeches recently simply is, he's simply taking the bait, and it's good for the president himself because he shows the precedent.
As for the president, he has gone to sleep. The president has gone to sleep.
But he will be on the ballot. Dr. Bawumia is not on the ballot.
No. As for the president,
in 2020,
Ghanaians have already rejected it beyond his 110 ministers that he appointed. And so they have learned how to do things in large sizes and waste our money. Today, were you reading the delegation that they took to the trade?
But the president is going to be on the ballot in 2020. I haven't.
You haven't read it? You haven't seen Dr. Bawumia's delegation and the wife's delegation. The wife went with 20 Dr. Bawumia went with 16.
Yeah. But my substantive question is, is it a deliberate strategy on the part of John Mahama to...
It is never, we are just telling Ghanaians the truth that they know already. It is just a reminder that these people came to you. They lied to you. They told you they will build one district, one factory. They are now struggling to tell you that, oh, we didn't say so. Go and read our manifesto. This is not the beginning. The finance minister started it when they promised the DKM, the DKM customers that, oh, we will pay back all your money. Now, when they put him to strict proof, he said, oh, that is not in their manifesto. These people, they say one thing with one side of their mouth, and then say another. They tell us that they will build, one village, one dam. Not that
this is something that we explored yesterday.
One village, one dam.
Mr. Babia,
there is no dam anywhere. Every constituency will get $1 million every year.
There's a lot that has been said.
What has he used this $1 million for 2 years?
In the past speeches that he's done, even before you came to power, that many have said is coming to haunt him, such as I've just pointed out. In fact, he even criticized the government IMF program, an IMF program that you extended.
Yes.
That you said when you come you would abrogate, and yet you extended.
Yeah, no, we had to.
There's a lot. Some people say it's a double standard.
No,
that Dr.
Bawumia
has shown.
had to depart the IMF program properly. You couldn't just cut it off midstream. They put us in there, and now they reject the results, the analysis that the IMF itself told them.
The
unintelligent Ghanaians. I'm a very unintelligent. I'm a very unintelligent Ghanaian.
They are rejecting.
Mr. Adams, I need to interrogate this. Just allow this to happen. My point to you, you've referenced the IMF document.
No.
But it's the same IMF document.
Yes.
IMF that Dr. Bawumia in his speeches criticized.
That I'm saying.
But
that
you are
we have come
referencing the same
into
IMF
power.
document.
Yes, because we had to finish off the program properly. We couldn't just cut it off.
Look,
we have to finish it. Will he allow me to speak? What is he afraid of? What is he afraid of? What is he afraid of? What is he afraid of?
What is the situation of the cocoa farmer today?
I thought we have. What is he afraid of?
What is the situation of the cocoa farmer today? The taxi driver out there.
I'll come back to you for you to wrap up very shortly. And I'm sure you can arrange
the next out there.
Can I make a note for me? Yes, please, Mr. Bawumia.
Let me analyze that single sentence for the benefit of we, the unintelligent Ghanaians, so that the incompetent, intelligent Ghanaians will appreciate what they themselves put us into.
Very briefly.
This is the IMF.
You're so quoting the IMF.
No, it is important that that sentence is understood by the entire public. The entire public. It says, revenues are underperforming. That's right. And the deteriorated financial situation of some SOEs in the energy sector. That means that money matters in the energy sector. Oil, gas, electricity, money matters are worrying them. It's posing fiscal risks. It was actually attacking the innards of the economy. Tax policy, everything. Money was running. The banks were in crisis because of that. Money matters, consumption. Then,
unfortunately, we just run out of time.
Yeah, but you allow
so in wrapping up,
what we are saying is that Bawumia is on track.
Bawumia
is on track. The government is on track. We are not going to be deflected with any incompetent comments. Even the way they are seeking to come back is incompetent.
But he keeps on responding to the...
Exactly, it's incompetent.
It's incompetent. When he should be doing the job of running the administrative government.
It's incompetent. If somebody says the incompetent one seeks to come back, why carry it yourself?
This is a government that
incompetence will not go away.
Mr. Adams. Until we came to revive GCB in 2009.
No amount of shouting. The banking crisis started in 2014.
He allowed you to make your comments.
Let him too much time. Give me just 2 minutes. The banking crisis started in 2014.
This is a government that has failed miserably. The cocoa farmers are complaining. The other farmers are complaining. The taxi drivers are complaining. The business people are complaining. Their own Canadian Japan said he imported air conditioners. They showed him the bill that it cost $22,000
We are
to
rationalizing.
bring those air conditions. But you know the duty he has to pay.
We are rationalizing.
$25,000.
We are rationalizing.
That is madness.
And we will sort it out.
Bawumia should
We
wake
are
up
rationalizing.
and stop blaming others.
We are
They
rationalizing.
Are not working.
Okay.
They
We are
just wasting
rationalizing
away
and
our
we will
resources.
resolve
And
everything.
that is what they are doing.
To the both gentlemen for joining
The
us.
banking crisis
PM
of
Express.
2014. Now you're interrupting me from
ending the show. Thank you very much,
It's a pleasure.
MP
It's
for
a pleasure.
a national organizer of the NDC, Kofi Adams. I'm grateful that you join us. Join us again tomorrow for an edition of PM Express.